Apparently, some old white man is angry because he's racist and he's a bigot and doesn't want to admit his own privilege. This guy, Terry Gilliam, how dare he try and be funny, mocking people. Terry Gilliam is a former Monty Python, and I hope you realized I was being facetious there. But we have this story. Terry Gilliam gets flack for diversity comments. Ooh, I wonder what he said. Probably something very offensive. Director Terry Gilliam is taking heat online for remarks he made about diversity. Uh-oh. The former Monty Python star was asked about a recent comment from the BBC's head of comedy, Shane Allen. Allen said that if the comedy troupe were to form now, quote, "It's not going to be 6 Oxbridge white blokes. It's going to be a diverse range of people who reflect the modern world." Speaking at the Karlovy Vary Film Festival, Gilliam replied, "You know, I no longer want to be a white male and be blamed for everything. I tell the world I am a BLGT, black, lesbian, and transition, and my name is Loretta. Comedy is not assembled, a boy, a girl, white, black, a dog. I want to be trans species, transgender is not enough. It's not gone down that well," according to Yahoo. Then Yahoo goes ahead and pulls up some random tweets from people who probably have no influence. I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not trying to say that people's opinions don't matter. Just that when you take a bunch of random people off the internet, you're going to find a wide range of opinions. I bet you I can go onto Twitter and actually find people who are tweeting about how the moon is made of cheese. I'm not kidding. Seriously. There are a lot of people on Twitter, and some people are crazy. So you see these stories all the time where they'll take some random people off Twitter and say, look what everyone's saying. Okay, well, let's look at what they think is happening. Thor, sexy pirate angel. Oh, I've heard of them. They're a great thought leader on a new... no, it's a Twitter person. It's a regular person. Can we just staple Terry Gilliam's mouth shut? Hashtag lost the wrong python. It's got 1 like. This tweet has 1 like. Why are they... It's like whoever wrote this article went on Twitter, grabbed a random tweet, and just said, just put that in the article, I guess. You can make any narrative you want, because there's more than enough people on Twitter. Hell, I could make fake Twitter accounts all day and night and then be like, tons of people are saying that the moon isn't actually made of cheese, but it's made of Play-Doh, and there you go. That's what they do. Sun Cup, the great Sun Cup with 3 likes. Go away, Terry Gilliam. If you can't handle being a privileged white dude, how you gonna handle a day in the life of a black woman, much less a black lesbian? Ah, the great thinker, Sun Cup. A prestigious, influential academic that we've all heard of. I'm not trying to be a dick to these people. I'm more trying to insult the idea that these people that their credentials aren't there. What they say doesn't necessarily matter in the sense that they're not academics, they're not high-profile activists, they're not people who are active, and their opinions don't have a wide-ranging impact on the rest of society. So I really hate elitism, but I also really hate the idea that you can take fringe opinions, these few tweets, and then act like everyone is saying this. It's not true, okay? Look, your opinion matters no matter how many followers you have. That's not the point I'm trying to make. I'm trying to make the point that there is a massively diverse set of opinions across all social media. And I assure you I can find even crazier opinions than this. Terry Gilliam on diversity. I tell the world I am a black lesbian. Oh dear, this is a very unfortunate response. It's so very disappointing. We'll pull this story up in a second. Ah, here we are, a blue checky. This blue checky has 201 likes and 33 replies, so this seems to be much more of someone with influence. What do they think? I doubt Terry Gilliam could say anything shitty enough to ruin his good movies for me, but apparently he's going to try. I think the worst part is that such a creative voice can age into an old crank in such a boring, ordinary way. No. This is not Terry Gilliam's fault. This is your fault. You changed. You guys are going crazy. It's like, oh, look, George Carlin, his opinions were pretty much his opinions. You knew what he thought on these issues. He didn't go anywhere. You are all the people who are moving away from them. Terry Gilliam seems like the same old comedian he's always been. And he made a crass comment. That's what comedy is. Comedy is offensive to a lot of people for a lot of reasons. I guess unless you're insulting yourself, comedy is probably going to be offensive. There are wholesome jokes, absolutely, and there's a lot of offensive jokes. And Terry Gilliam said something kind of funny. I get the point he's trying to make. And now everyone's going, oh, he's an old crank. He aged into it. No, it sounds like he's the same person he's always been. It sounds like you are overly sensitive, and these people are getting so ridiculously sensitive, they're getting mad at comedy. Comedy isn't supposed... Every joke has its truth, but comedy is supposed to be reaching into the absurd in many instances or conveying some kind of idea. Often it's exaggerated. Obviously, he doesn't really call himself a black lesbian. It's funny. It's a stupid joke. Apparently, Terry Gilliam knew someone who'd once talked to Morrissey, and that was enough to get infected. Oh my. Please be aware of the spread of EAS, entitled arsehole syndrome. The first signs are a lack of perspective and acting persecuted when actually they're not. I'm pretty sure Terry Gilliam was making fun of you guys for acting persecuted when you're actually not. I think that's the point. Are there any positive pro-Terry Gilliam? Like, wow, what happened to Terry Gilliam? Geez, listen, Yahoo, I get it. You pulled up a bunch of random tweets, but it doesn't mean anything. Terry Gilliam bravely taking a stand against being told old white dudes keep co-opting things and offending people. Co-ops things to offend people. You can't offend, like, you can try to offend people, but people are offended on their own. Like, if you get offended, it's because you have something in you, right? I can go outside, I can eat a cheeseburger in front of a vegan, the vegan's gonna get offended. Did I try to offend them? No, I'm just eating a cheeseburger. But some people get offended. Nothing you can do about it. To say that he's taking, old white dudes are offending people is like saying, I mean, I could literally say black people offend white people, offend Mexican people. Like, every group of race offends everyone else for some reason. You've got white supremacists who are offended. Why would people get it? That's why offense is so dumb. That's why the idea of, like, I'm offended is absurd. Ian Crosby, Stills Nash, and Young Dankskin. Ah, yes, the great Ian Crosby, Stills Nash, and Young Dankskin. Very familiar with his work. I'd be more upset about Terry Gilliam acting like a douchebag if he'd made a good movie in the last few decades. Oh, there it is. His movies all suck. The other opinions about his movie being good don't matter, because he's a white privileged man. Gilliam was in the Czech Republic shopping his new movie, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, explaining that contrary to reports, it will be hitting cinemas across Europe soon. The film has been the center of a legal battle between Gilliam and former producer who claims that he owns the rights. I don't know if this stuff is particularly important to the story, but I will take this opportunity to say, you know who I absolutely love and respect, and I'm absolutely sad that I will never meet them. George Carlin might be one of the greatest comedians. He is a legend. Rest his soul. Funny guy. He said a bunch of offensive stuff all the time. Sometimes his jokes weren't even really jokes. Sometimes he'd go up on stage and just say extremely rude things about the United States, about politicians. He was a left-wing guy. He criticized Republicans. He was pro-choice. He criticized U.S. imperialism, and he used racial slurs to an extreme degree in one of his performances in the early 90s. I think it was like 1992 or 3. He said, George Carlin is famous for doing his rapid-fire like monologues as part of his act, where it's just great. And in one of his bits, he says maybe like 30 or 40 racial slurs. He actually refers to Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor as the N-word. And the point he was making was context matters. The context matters. You need to be more worried about the racist asshole insulting you than you do about the words being expressed by people. And that's what George Carlin was saying when he used that word. He said, we know that, you know, certain people are allowed to use certain words. He mentions that Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy are allowed to say the N-word. Why? And then he calls them the N-word. Everyone laughed. This is a group of left-wing individuals supporting George Carlin. Am I to imagine now that everyone in that audience today are conservative? No. One of the things that really bugs me about the whole issue of comedy and offense and what's going on with this is that people genuinely believe they're conservative not because they hold conservative values, beliefs, traditional beliefs, deregulation, things like that, but because they oppose authoritarians. You can be left and oppose authoritarianism. What really bothers me is that the authoritarian left has taken everything over. And now when you say, hey, authoritarian guy, you suck, they go, you're far right. And then other people latch onto that statement, it ends up in your Wikipedia page, and all of a sudden you're a far right dude. That's what happens. And you get a lot of people on the left who lie about you. You know, I've been lied about. People say I'm like a far right mouthpiece. A far right mouthpiece for opposing authoritarianism is the craziest thing in the world. The other day, there's this activist, and he said something like, I made a video on my main channel where I said far left rhetoric might actually help Donald Trump. I talked about how the DSA calling for no borders is going to scare middle America. He quote tweets me and says that I was supporting the right by doing that. First of all, if the left can't recognize their own faults, if they can't take criticism and they just say anybody who criticizes us is far right, you're going to lose. You're not going to get any voters. You're going to lose in November. So you better wise up. But he then started saying, he started talking about the activism and being offensive and how people shouldn't be allowed to do certain things. And I said, I get it. You're an authoritarian. Your talking points only go one direction, imposing on others against their will. And he said, call it what you want, the work is the same. This was a far left activist saying this. Look, there are certain people saying, oh, I'm not an authoritarian, I oppose authoritarians, I oppose identity. But then they want to impose a set of rules, a way of life on you without your consent. That is authoritarianism. That is saying that there is an authority, be it an individual or a dogma or some ideology or principle that has to be obeyed at all costs without your consent. Authoritarianism versus libertarianism, which is liberty, which we come to an agreement, we decide how to work together. And because of this, everyone's far right. So Terry Gilliam has aged into an old crank. People like George Carlin, if he was still alive today, he'd probably be called alt-right. You know it because he used a racial slur. And that's the world we're living in. Terry Gilliam of Monty Python, one of the greatest comedy groups, some of the most famous bits, the most famous actors and producers, and some of the funniest shit we will ever hear in our lives. And now you've got people saying that they're cranky old white dudes for being who they are. You know what? To hell with that. I'm going to go watch some Monty Python and enjoy myself. Then I'm going to put on a George Carlin special and listen to him spout out all the racial slurs and the 7 words you can't say on TV, and I'm going to laugh.